what's up guys, and welcome to this video. And in this video I will be going to show to you the 22 Philippine traditional games, because we know that children nowadays, or in this generation, are more focusing on technology rather than Philippine traditional games. So that's why the purpose of this video is to remind others that what is Philippine traditional games are. And let's go back to the old days, or in the past, when children still played and didn't have many gadgets. So let's get started.
Before we play, we do a mano to know who will be going to be a baka. In Luksong Baka rules, the player should avoid touching or falling over the baka player while jumping over. The baka player should start with a kneeling down position, or a baka player bends over with their hands placed on his or her knees. All players are to jump over the baka until all the players have jumped. Materials, none. Next is Luksong Tinik rules. Two players on the base sits facing each other, putting a foot forward and touching the other player's foot. Then each member of the other teams starts jumping over the feet. When all members are alone jumping over the feet, the players on the base added a hand at a time or a feet. Materials, none. Next is Agawan base rules. There will be two bases. Each base has equal members. Assign a member to guard your base. Other members may run outside their base to capture the opponents or to steal the opponent's base. To capture the opponents, you must tag them. The captured opponent will be the other team's prisoner or ally. He or she must stand in the captor's base until his or her teammates tag him or her to be saved. To steal the base of the opponent and win, you must touch their base. Materials. You'll be needing two bases markers like sleepers, chairs, rocks, or trees. Next is Shato. In this game, the base player will place the short stick across the hole and scoop it out with a long stick, attempting to land it on the farthest possible spot on the side where the field player is, but should not allow the latter to catch it. If the player should catch the short stick, then he or she would get the points assigned for a catch while gaining the chance to play the base. If the short stick was not caught, the number of the long sticks measures from the hole to the short stick is the points for the base player. Materials. You'll be needing long stick and a short stick. Next is Bahay Kubo. It is a hand-clapping game generally involving 4 people. They are split into 2 pairs, a pair having 2 people facing each other and all members from both pairs facing the center. The 2 pairs being perpendicular to each other. Each pair then does a hand-clapping routine while singing the Bahay Kubo. At the middle of the song, each pair exchanges routines with the other. Materials, none. Next is Buwan-Buwan. A rough circle is drawn on the ground and one person from the group is tagged. He is not allowed to enter the circle, but instead has to touch one of the people inside the circle without having entered it. If he or she succeeds, he can enter the circle, and the person touched becomes the next one type. Materials, none. Next is kadang-kadang. Kadang-kadang is a racing game. Depending on the players, what kind of race will be done can be rotated on the pole or can also have a line to cross. To play the kadang-kadang, you'll need a pair of bamboo poles with equal lengths and a step ladder of foot size to serve as the platform for the player's feet. Materials, equal lengths of bamboo stilts or bamboo poles. Next is patintero. In playing patintero, you will cross in line without letting to touch you or catch you. Each member of the group who is it stands on the lines. The perpendicular line in the middle allows the it designated on that line to intersect the lines occupied by the it that the parallel line intersects, thus increasing the chance of the group runners to be trapped. Even only one member of a group is tagged, the whole group will be the it or ally. Materials, none. Next is sangkayaw. Sangkayaw, also known as a coconut shell race. It is just like a kadang-kadang that you will need to race depending on the players what kind of race will be done. Can be rotated on the pole or can also have a line to cross. But in this game, we will not using bamboo. Instead, coconut shell and string or rope. Materials, coconut shell, string, rope. Next is sipa. The object being used to play the game is also called sipa. It is made up of washer with colorful threads, usually plastic straw attached to it. The sipa is then thrown upwards for the player toss using his or her foot. The player must not allow the sipa to touch the ground by hitting it several times with his or her foot, and sometimes the part just above the knee. The player must count the number of times he and she will able to kick the sipa. Materials, plain washer and colored plastic. Next is 10-20, a game involving two pairs with one utilizing a stretch length of garter. One pair faces each other from a distance and has the garter stretched around them in such a way that a pair of parallel lengths of garter is between them. The members of the garter of other pair that begin doing a jumping routine over the garters while singing a song 10, 20, 30 and so on until 100. Each level begins with the garters at ankle height and progress to higher position, with the players jumping nimbly on the garters while doing their routines. Materials, garter. Next is tumbang preso. The game requires 3 or more players. Each player is provided with a large throwaway object, could be slippers or a shoe, called pamato. A semi-flattened empty tin or plastic container is placed in the throwing line. The other players stand at the throwing line. They take turns throwing their pamato at the empty tin, trying to knock it down. As soon as they can knock down the can, the prisoner must put back the tin in upright position before he can tag any of the players attempting to recover their pamato. Materials, can and slipper. Next is Holland. Each player places their agreed number of marbles and place it in the center of the circle. The players whose marble is nearest in the line or in the hole gets to play first. Shooters have to kneel on the ground and flick marbles out of your fist or your fist and your thumb. Keep on playing until one of you misses hitting any of the marbles from the circle. Gather any marbles you can hit and move out of the circle. Let the next player shoot if you haven't knocked any marbles out and or your shooter remains in the ring. Continue playing until the ring is empty or the hole is empty. At the end of the game, the player with the most marbles is the winner. Materials, marble. Next is taguan. Decide among your group who is the first to eat. The it person gets to decide the base, and from there, he or she closes his or her eyes while counting to 1 to 10 or 1 to 50. After the countdown, then the it person will find the other players. Hiding players can save themselves by touching the base while The it person is looking for others. Materials, none. Next is Palo Sebo. This game involves a greased bamboo pole that players attempt to climb. This game is usually played during town fiestas, particularly in the provinces. The object of the participant is to be the first person to reach the prize, a small bag or a flag hit at the top of the bamboo pole. Materials, bamboo pole, toys, grease, flag, or bag. Next is Luksong Lubid. Rules. 2 people will hold the end of the rope while the rest of the people will fall in a single line. 1 person must go first and all of the people must follow what the first person did. Next is Ubusan ng Lahi. 1 tries to conquer the members of a group as in claiming the members of the other's clan. The tag player from the main group automatically becomes an ally of the tagger. The more players, the better. The game will start with only 1 it and then try to find and tag other players. Once 1 player is tagged, he or she then will help the it to tag the other players until no other participant is left. Materials, none. Next is Trumpo. Rules. Before the game starts, each player will spin their trumpo in the ground simultaneously. The first trumpo stop spinning will be the taya and putting his trumpo in the center of the circle. Other players will now start in hitting the taya on circle. If the striker hits the taya out of the circle while his trumpo is still spinning, it is considered a valid hit and he will punish the taya's trumpo by putting it in fix on ground with its nail, then hitting it by nail of striker's trumpo. If the strikers did not hit the taya, he will be in danger of becoming the next taya. Next is Langit Lupa. Rules. Langit Lupa is chasing game, a variation of habulan where players can be immune from being tagged as long they stand on an elevated surface. Etymology, langit is the Filipino word for heaven and lupa is earth. The game names describes how the chaser cannot reach player how are elevated from the earth. Materials, none. Next is Pico. Rules. Every player plays the game twice. The first time he or she begins in his moon and the second time in his opponent's moon. When he is threw back and forth, then the second part is started. Care must be taken in throwing the pamato in their exact places, in hoping and kicking it out. Materials, rock or a coin. Next is Saranggola. Rules. A kite is a tethered heavier than air or lighter than air craft with wing surface that react against the air to create lift and drag forces. Material. Cellophane, plastic thread, sticks, but it depends what kind of kite is yours. Next is tag of war. Rules. An equal number of players pick up each end of the rope. The players begin tugging the rope when the referee gives the signal. Each player pulls backward as hard as they can. Materials, rope or any kinds of mark. How can I relate the practical exam in achieving holistic development? I believe that playing Laro ng Lahi or Philippine traditional games is a big help in achieving holistic development of your child, since it helps them to have a great skills and develops their intellectual, mental, physical, emotional, and also in social abilities. So that would be all.
But before I end this video, I would like to tell you that the benefits of those traditional games to our life and body are so many. Like for example, in our life, it will help us to have a teamwork skills, cooperation skills, work on strategies, and also in tactics. And it will also promote peace and camaraderie and a lot more. And also in our body, it will help us to develop our bones and muscles, and it will develop our physical activities. So that will be all. Thank you for listening.